So, good day everyone and welcome back to our maths sessions. So in this session, we are going to take a look at some possible solutions of what was expected of you in terms of answering the paper 1 question, which is the May June question paper that was written. So before we waste much time, let's get into the questions of what were you expected to answer this. So we had the first question, which was just a low-level question, and it was a 2 marks question with x squared minus 9 equals to 0, just for 2 marks. So what we expected on this one was to make sure that you perform a difference of 2 squares, whereby we factorize both x squared and 9. We find factors of 9, which are 3. So x minus 3 on this side, we have x plus 3 equals to 0, which means in terms of factorizing this, we have 2 factors now, which is x minus 3 and x plus 3. So the solution at the end of the day was x is equals to negative 3 or x is equals to positive 3. This was the first question here. So let's look at the next question. What were you expected to answer on the next question? The next question, as usual, as we know in algebra, you are expected to answer this question here, which is 2x squared plus 3x minus 7 is equals to 0. A typical question for 3 marks. So how you should answer this question is that there's an instruction on the question. The instruction is that you should answer this question correct to two decimal place, which means you cannot factorize this by inspection or perform another calculation, except where you are supposed to use what is called a quadratic formula. What's the quadratic formula? As you are all aware that x is equals to negative b plus or minus, we have b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So we substitute our a is 2, our b is 3, our c which is negative 7. So let us substitute x is equals to, we have our negative 3 plus or minus, then we have our 3 squared minus 4, our a in this case is 2, our c is negative 7, divided everything by 2a, which is 2 times 2. So after we do this, we have to punch a calculator, obviously. After punching a calculator, then we are going to have our 2 values of x. In this case, the 2 values of x are negative 2, 7, 7. And just remember that you have to round off this question correct to 2 decimal places. That also attracts a mark. If you don't round off correct to 2 decimal places, you risk losing a mark. So our first answer was x is equals to negative 2,77, or our second answer was 1,27. These are the 2 answers for this question. So let's move on to the next one. The next question, which is what is called a quadratic inequality. So the quadratic inequality that we have here, that you were given in this question paper, was that of a binomial on the left hand side, which was negative x squared plus 3x, which is bigger than negative 4. A typical question for 3 to 4 marks. So how are you expected to answer a quadratic inequality? The first thing to do in this case is minus x squared plus 3x. You bring that other 4 over here, which is going to be plus 4 bigger than 0. So after we have this, then what's the next thing to do? The next thing to do is to get what we term in shortcut as the CVs. We call them the critical values. How do we get critical values? We solve the left-hand side using a quadratic formula. So the left-hand side, x is equal to negative b plus or minus, we have b squared minus 4ac. Everything divided by 2a. So the next thing to do is to substitute your a, your b, your c in this. We are using equal sign because we have to solve the critical values on the left-hand side. That will allow us to know what are the x-intercepts of this. So we substitute x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus, we have 3 squared minus 4ac, which is for everything divided by 2a, which is 2 times minus 1. So after you substitute your values here, then let's see what answers we expected. X was found to be equals to -1 or 4. But it doesn't end here. After we find the values of x, which are -1 as well as 4, what you're expected to do now is to know how to respond to the inequality given in this case. If you look here, the inequality is greater than, as we read from left to right. This is our f of x is bigger than 0, which means you are expected to kind of draw a sketch of your Cartesian plane, a sketch of a Cartesian plane that will allow you to understand. If you are to use a graphical method to draw this, you are going to have a set because of the negative, which is crossing through -1 and 4. Here is our set, which crosses through -1 as well as 4. So there's -1 here as well as 4 here. Now, our inequality, which is bigger than, it's a sign that you have to respect that you are going to look at how is the graph behaving above the x-axis. Above the x-axis or greater than on the x-axis, we're going to have a turning point. I'm going to just put a dotted line here like this. That's a sign that our values or our domain is limited from -1 until +4 only. So we are going to put our x right in the middle. We have -1 less than x, x less than 4. These are the final values of what you expected to put on your quadratic inequality. So as we move on to the next question, which was a quadratic inequality. So let's move on to the next question, a quadratic inequality. So basically, almost all the algebra, it's all about how do you solve quadratics, different kinds of quadratics from difference of two squares, using factorization, by inspection, all these questions. So now we move on to the next one, which was a typical question that was given like this, with 7x plus 2, then outside of the square root, plus 2x is equals to 8. So this was a typical question. So on these questions, we all understand that you are expected at some point in time to square both sides. But you don't just rush to square both sides until you are able to isolate the square root one side. So let's start by isolating this square root one side. We are going to take 2x. On the other side, our equation is going to be 7x plus 2 is equals to 8 minus 2x. So we managed to isolate square root one side, everything that is not under the square root on the other side, which means now we are allowed to just square both sides. How do we square both sides? We are going to have to square this side and this side. When we square both sides, we are going to have on the other side cancellation of square root and this exponent of 2. We are going to be left with 7x plus 2 is equals to, on the other side, if we are going to FOIL this side, we are going to end up having 64, and then we are going to have minus 32x, 64 minus 32x, as well as plus 4x squared. So foiling this side, because of the squared, we shall have our right hand side looking like this. After that, then we have to combine everything. Let us standardize this quadratic equation. And we are going to be left with a 0 here. On the other side, we are going to have 4x squared, and 7x goes on the other side, and it's going to be subtracted with minus 39x, because negative 32 minus 7 will give you negative 39. And 2 goes on the other side to be subtracted from 64. We are going to have plus 62. Plus 62. So we now have a standard quadratic equation in terms of x, our a, our b, our c. So without wasting time, we have to go straight to use the quadratic formula on the other side. We are going to have x being equals to negative b plus or minus. We shall have our b squared. We shall have our b squared minus 4ac, everything divided by 2a. Then we have to substitute our a, our b, our c in this formula. We shall have x being equals to negative. I prefer you put your negative in the formula and you respect your b, which is in this case negative 39. Everything plus or minus, we have a square root, which is going to be negative 39 squared minus 4. Our a is 4, our c is 62. Everything is under a square root divided by 2a, our a, which is 4. So this is 39. So negative 39 squared, that's our a, our b, subtract 4ac. Then we have to punch this on the calculator, and we are going to get our x values being equals to x is equals to 2, or x is equals to 31 over 4. So basically these are the two values of x that we have. So having these two values of x, it means that if our question was a quadratic inequality, you don't just leave the question like this, because if the question was 5 marks, it means 1 mark will be deducted because you did not test to approve whether all those values are valid for our equation. So let's test. How do you test? You bring back the original. When you substitute 2 into this, you are going to have the left hand side 7 bracket 2, then plus 2. We are going to have plus 2 bracket 2, and then you punch this on the calculator to test whether the left hand side is going to give you exactly an answer which is equals to 8. If you test with the calculator, you'll find that this will come down to 8. So yes, our x is equals to 2. Then we have to test also the other value, 31 over 4. If we test that one, we are going to have x being, we are going to have a square root with 7, and our x becoming 31 over 4, then plus 2 bracket 31 over 4. Then after testing this, we realize that x became 23. This unit became 23. So since this whole unit became 23, which is not giving us an answer exactly equal to 8, which is on the right hand side, what are we going to do? We have to reject the value of x, which is 31 over 4. So finally, x will not be equals to 31 over 4. This is part of the answer. So when we say you have to test, this is what you mean by testing the values of x to see if they are truly and really valid for what you have. So this was the first section, our question 1, which was the question for what are called what is called a quadratic inequality. So let's move on to the last two questions. On algebra question. So the next question, which was question 1.2, it had 2 to the power of x times 2 to the power of y. Everything over 4 is equals to 1. This was given as our equation 1. Then we also had negative 2x squared plus 3xy is equals to y squared. This was equation 2. So basically we can see that our equation 1 is in form of what are called exponential equation, when our unknown are exponents. But one good thing, they have a common base such that we'll be able to use law 1, which is called the product law of inequalities, of exponents. So let's use that product law here. We are going to have 2, basically x plus y, being equals to 4. How do we arrive here? You take the same base, which means you are going to add the exponents. These two exponents will be added. When you add these two exponents, in this case, you write a single base. Then you cross multiply, 4 goes over there to be multiplied to 1. So basically what you are going to have is that 2 to the power of x plus y is equal to 2 to the power of 2. So what we now have is a situation whereby the bases are the same. We create equation equation 3, x plus y is equals to 2. So we have created equation 3 in this case. Here's our equation 3. Then after getting equation 3, let's rewrite x in terms of y. We're going to have x being equals to 2 subtract y. So our equation 3 has become like this. This is our equation 3 in terms of x. So in terms of x, we're going to substitute this into equation 2. So let us substitute into the equation 2. We substitute into the equation 2 in this way. So we are going to have something that looks like this, whereby at every position of x in this equation, we have to substitute our equation 3. We are going to have negative 2 bracket, our x is 2 minus y, and then we are going to have a squared, and then we are going to have plus 3x, our x is substituted by 2 minus y, and then we are going to have equals to y squared. Before the y squared, don't forget there is a y here, so let's write our y outside being equals to y squared. So we have substituted that. Then we have to solve this minus 2 bracket, solving this 2 subtract y squared. We are going to come up with 4 minus 4y plus y squared. Then on the other side, we combine these 2 outside, plus 3y is going to be 2 minus y equals to, let's bring y squared one time over here, is going to be minus y squared equals to 0. So I guess you can see properly, but we are going to we FOIL this side to become this. We also combine what's outside to 3 times y, 2 minus y inside, minus y squared equals to 0. So let us simplify further. Simplifying further, in this case, we're going to have minus 8 and minus 8 plus 8y minus 2y squared plus 6. 3 times 2 will give you plus 6y, and then this one will give you minus 3y squared, and then you have minus y squared equals to 0. So let's combine like terms and make it a standard quadratic equation. We are going to combine these ones with y squared. Minus 2 minus 3 minus 1 will give us minus 6y squared. Minus 6y squared. Then we combine these ones, is going to give us plus 40y, and we are going to have on the other side minus 8 being equals to 0. So at the end of the day, we have to solve our quadratic equation that we now have. Y is equals to, so solving this, we have to perform again a quadratic, using quadratic formula, whereby we are going to use the quadratic formula. I'm not going to write it, but let's just come up to that fact that the quadratic formula has to be used with your A, with your B, with your C. We are going to have our values of y be 4 over 3 or 1. Then it's not done, or it's like this. We come back to this equation 3. Substitute y in the position of y to solve for the other x values. So x is going to be equal to 2 minus your first value of y, 4 over 3. 2 subtract 4 over 3 on the calculator is going to give you 2 over 3. On the other side, x is going to be equal to 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1. So this is a different kind of an inequality of simultaneous equations, whereby equations have to be solved at the same time. But it entails that you use a substitution method here or elimination method, anything is fine. But start by breaking the inequality, the exponential